What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Can We Talk About It? As you can see, I'm not in my space right now, but there's a reason for that.
I have never said that was my motherfucking kitchen.
And we'll get into that in just a minute. But before we do that, as always, make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe, and click that bell so that you're up to date on all the latest posts on this channel. All right? I got a special guest for y'all, so let's go to the table so we can talk about it. You ready? Let's go.
What's up, y'all?
Oh, wait. This is going to be Derek.
Okay. You can call me Derek. You can call me D-Rob.
I know.
I'm an actor.
I know you as D-Rob. I know you as
you can do it all.
Derek and Emeka.
This is all what you can do.
Derek
on camera.
and Robin.
This you can do all this on camera.
Right. All right, so I got my boy Derek here with me, D-Rob.
What's up, y'all?
You can see we got on our alma mater shirts today. So I got PV repping for the HBCUs. And I got my boy over here repping University of Houston for the PWIs. And so we actually wanted to have a conversation. So Derek actually came to my house about a month or so ago. And we had a really intense conversation about the HBCU experience versus PWI experiences. And oftentimes when I'm speaking with some of my friends who attended PWIs, we find ourselves in these debates kind of like talking about which one was a better experience.
I know you girls like to tussle.
As far as who has the better bands, who has the better student campus life, who has the better student union food, the better Greek organizations. We actually wanted to kind of like take a moment to kind of like highlight why we chose to attend our respective institutions and the benefits of attending a HBCU or attending a PWI. So like, what was your inspiration in choosing University of Houston?
Yeah, absolutely. So me picking a college was pretty interesting because I'm a first generation college student. I saw myself bigger than where I'm from. And I'm from a small town called Pflugerville, which is outside of Austin. I know.
What?
It's a real place, y'all. It's not off of Disney, I swear. but just being off of that, I knew I wanted to do something bigger and better with my life and my career. And so initially, I looked into University of Miami. That was a school I was ready to go to, but they were like, "Oh man, it's like $45,000, $50,000 a year." And I was like, "Hey, let me bring it on. Let me dial it on back. Come on back to the house, back to Texas." And so from there, I looked at some schools that were really truly based in architecture. So that was the Texas Tech, that was UT, that was U of H, and UTA, and Baylor. And so I got into Baylor as well too, but Baylor was, again, it was out of pocket for me. You know, a situation where at that time Baylor was a whopping like $32,000. My parents like, "Nah, keep your, stay at the house. We're gonna try to cut some costs," and then we're gonna kind of go from there. And so from there, I was really landing on architecture. That was something I really wanted to do. And so prior to that, my dad and I actually went to University of Houston at that time. And so I kind of saw the campus. I really fell in love with it. And actually, it's a very cool story because my aunt, which is my dad's sister, actually went to U of H. And she did her thing there. And it was kind of crazy because when I grew up, I remember seeing this apparel from U of H. It had like these long, like it had like Houston on the leg, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I could never fit into it, but I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." Like, I was a little runt, but it's okay. And who knew that we would actually place that I would call home for my collegiate experience. And like I said, it was kind of cool from there.
Got you. So like for me, choosing the HBCU, I guess it was kind of somewhat similar. So I was also an architecture major for people who may not know. And so I was looking at schools who had architecture programs, and I never really put a lot of serious consideration in HBCUs. And for me, I actually grew up in a predominantly like majority setting. So a majority of my classmates were white. I always attended, white schools from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So I didn't know a whole lot about HBCUs. Although my mother, she graduated from Jackson State University, HBCU. That was pretty much it. I really didn't know a lot about HBCUs. And we would go to college fairs and you wouldn't see HBCUs there. Or if you did, it was like one. So it was just one of those things of just kind of like not really being that knowledgeable about HBCUs. That's why I didn't really consider them as much.
Yeah.
And so I ended up attending Prairie View, honestly, on a whim. I had applied to Texas Tech, University of Houston. For whatever reason, Lamar, they don't even have an architecture program. And I applied to Prairie View and Howard. So toured Texas Tech. They had dust storms. I wasn't feeling it because way out in the desert. Toured. I toured University of Houston, and it wasn't a pleasant experience for me. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, I don't feel comfortable. This isn't home for me. And And so it was actually a letdown because I was really, really interested in going to the University of Houston. I looked into their architecture program, had looked up all the pictures and stuff online, trying to envision myself on the campus, and then got there and it was just kind of like, So then on our way back to Dallas, my mom and I, we stopped at Prairie View. And honestly, it just superseded my expectations. Like the campus was beautiful. We were greeted by, so Prairie View is like a small town. It's a college town. So the mayor's office is on the campus. So we were greeted by the mayor. I'm not sure if he was flirting with my mom or not.
Hello there.
We were greeted by the mayor. He then put us on his cart and toured us around the campus. We went to the new freshman dorms that they were building, which were really nice. They were building a new architecture building, which was really dope. We went to the student center. The food was slapping. Yeah. So I was like, I kind of like how I feel here. I think I can do this. And my mom was like, "Are you sure?" Because she went to Jackson State, so she was throwing her little shade at PV, like, that's Prairie View. Like, ain't doing nothing. So went there that first semester, and honestly, the first about half of the semester, I felt very out of place. So it was a big culture shock for me.
Really doesn't surprise me.
I struggled with meeting friends and kind of fitting in, and a lot of times I was just focused on my studies. So my GPA was like a 3.8 that first semester, just because I wasn't really involved in a whole lot. The pivotal point for me was when I actually entered into this competition for Mr. University College, and winning that pageant changed my entire trajectory of my PV experience. From that point on, like, people knew my name, they knew I could sing, they knew my face. They would call me like in the middle of the student center, "Mr. UC," and I was just like, "Hey, what's up?" And so I kind of felt like, okay, this is a place where I belong, and I just kind of went from there.
Let me dial it back real quick, because you did touch on something that I failed to talk about. So I would say also my choosing of a PWI over HBCU was also just a lack of knowledge as well too. So, being a first generation college student, kind of the onus was all on me for my own destiny, right? And so I only knew what I could see. And so coming from Austin, we have UT, but UT is so loud. It is so loud when it comes to just the presence in itself. Being at home in Austin, that's all I knew was UT. But let alone across the street was Houston-Tillotson. Didn't even know that existed. Didn't even know that was there. I mean, I've been there all my life, but I've seen it every now and again. But I was like, even like the signs, like Houston-Tillotson, like, it didn't resonate with me as far as like what that truly meant. And so I think that if I could dial it back as far as like being able to really choose the proper school, I wish I would have done a little bit more research.
It's pretty dope that we had like a similar experience as far as for like not being exposed, and then just the path that we chose. So if you could compare the two experiences, what would you say were the pros and the cons of choosing a PWI over HBCU?
I know I'm a little biased because I truly can't tell you what an HBCU would be. It's just from third party listening and stuff like that. So I was afforded to be essentially across the street from HBCU. So I went to go from U of H to TSU, Texas Southern University. That's the real one that I know. No puns at anybody, so don't fire me up, y'all. But being able to essentially, only a street really divided the two schools, and so being able to walk across the street and seeing that entire school for what it's worth was really truly amazing. So, of course, I got my education from U of H, but I also got my culture from TSU. And so I have to truly...
Wow, you think you know somebody.
It's very unfortunate. But however, we'll get into that a little bit later. I had more of an appreciation for me being Black on that particular campus. So when you talk about benefits, of course, U of H kind of afforded me with a little bit more at some points. Like, hey, U of H was a well-known resonated name. You have a student from U of H versus TSU. Like that unspoken, like, I don't know about that, regardless of if my GPA was lower than another counterpart university, way more, little things like that I could not see. Thank you, God.
Well, thank you.
If that was the case, but don't mean it like that. But I do, but I don't. But, but little things like that kind of came in play as well, too. For a PWI or HBC, you have to make your experience that wealthy, right? Yeah. So it's like, what is your network looking like? What was your experience like? Like, were you always just partying all day? And that has nothing to do with HBCU, even though y'all had some bomb parties that I went to all the time, but we have bomb parties too.
Wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm. And for the mere fact, if you got caught up in that, you got caught up and you got sent home. So I was also a part of the Nigerian Student Association as well, which again afforded me to learn more about myself as a Black man. So again, I give the onus to like your age about that because I mean, without that, I wouldn't.
I mean, this is not a University of Houston commercial, but
It's
you
not
know,
a
it's
commercial.
okay. It's okay. I
mean,
understand you proud of your university. I got you. So as far as for the pros and cons for me attending an HBCU and what I know about PWI, for me, the pros of attending an HBCU is my first time ever experiencing Black people as a majority. Entering into whether it was competitions or if we're looking at just different opportunities that we were afforded, you never ever felt like you were slighted because of your race, because for the most part, a majority of us were Black. So just kind of seeing how diverse the Black diaspora like can be, because I was so used to like one viewpoint or perspective of what Blackness was growing up in high school. You had the few of us that were Black at my high school, and we thought that it meant dressing like this and it meant speaking like this, even though that wasn't really natural to us. We would try to force ourselves to kind of fit into these like stereotypes.
Said what?
Woo, Chile.
Woo Chile.
And another benefit or a pro was, as being an architecture major and attending, I think one of the only, if the only HBCU that has an architecture program in the state of Texas. A lot of firms, when they were looking for architects to meet their quota and diversify their firm, they would come to Prairie View and they would come and set up shop at our job fairs. We had professors that were also architects in the industry. They wanted to give back. And so they would come to Prairie View and they would kind of scout us out. So I kind of felt like a lot of times I had a little bit of a leg up in like getting selected for internships. So I had opportunities to like study abroad. I served, Mr. Prairie View, University College, like different titles that I had on campus that I probably would not have had had I attended a PWI. And another thing, seeing advisors, academic advisors, provosts, the university president, all these individuals who looked like you, and you knew that they were advocating on your behalf. I would say the con, sometimes you can get kind of sucked into, I guess, the microcosm of an HBCU. Unless you immerse yourself outside of the world of an HBCU, when you graduate from HBCU, you go out into the workforce, it might be another culture shock that you may experience, especially for people who may have attended an HBCU and then their K through 12 experience is predominantly Black also. And another con that I didn't experience, what other people did, was financial aid. So I gotta give, it's real. HBCUs, they sometimes tend to struggle on the financial aid side. I don't know what it's about. Thankfully, I didn't have that experience. I kind of knew some people, so I was able to pull strings, and I got scholarships, and my financial aid was usually pretty much set from year to year. I didn't have to wait in those long lines, but I heard the horror stories, and I empathize, but I don't know that life.
Must be. I will say you did hit on cons, and I failed to do that from my standpoint as well too. And I know that one of the cons I will say that sometimes the Black representation was lackluster at UVA.
I don't want none of that.
Sometimes as a Black student on campus, you felt like come on, man. I distinctly remember specifically there were some parties that were happening on a particular semester, and they ended up putting a metal detector in front of our main event space, and we were like, really? Moments like those where it's like almost as if racism slaps you in the face. I'm at a diverse campus, but I'm still being treated like.
So what changed like the focus of our conversation at my house? We talked about, you have people who are super proud of their HBCUs, people who are really proud of their PWIs, but then it's like, okay, you graduated from your institution, you're out in your field, you're making money, you're successful. What are you doing now to further the progress and the work that your university is doing?
I really want to take a further step as far as saying, hey, let me support my own. Folks who don't know, Black Restaurant Week was founded in Houston, and we highlight Black culinary businesses across the nation. Currently, this month right now, we do 15 campaigns across the nation highlighting restaurants, food trucks, operators, supporters, real estate folks, anybody who has like a chef or a caterer, food truck owner, etc. the alike. bartender, we look into those entities to be able to support them on that particular level. We've been able to develop this particular platform, and so even within that, we actually were able to send off money to the hotel college hospitality, Hilton College out there at U of H, and being able to afford some students a great amount of funds for them to really take their career and their experience to the next level. And little things like that is just something really kind of cool, because I know I've been knocking on the door about U of H and thinking, hey, look, how can I support? How can I give back? Because a lot of folks, unfortunately, like I mentioned before about TSU, they have a sour story. And so it's because, like, hey, I had a horrible time. They didn't give my stuff on time. I wasn't able to do this, and I was able to do that. But my thing is, you could get that anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on how much you have an appreciation and affinity for your particular school. And for me, I want to be able to support all Black folks. And so even for me now, there's sometimes I do give back to HBCUs, FAMU, and Morehouse alike. That money it should not go there theoretically, right? It should go to U of H and Texas Tech. But I still support them because they've been great folks for me. They've been great folks in my network, and and that's one thing I've done as far as being able to support my alma mater, U of H. My understanding, folks who do go to PV, they really do give back in a good sense. You guys have an amazing stadium that's out there that I think you got, like, out of all the HBCUs that I kind of have seen in my vision and just in life, you guys have a really amazing football stadium. And
the entire campus is just...
Yeah, the entire campus is nice.
My
I hate the windy roads and just a one way in, one way out. That's a fire hazard, but you guys worked that out, PV. I didn't go there either, so.
But yeah, so basically the bottom line of the discussion is whether you chose a PWI institution or HBCU, or as aspiring college students, whether you choose to attend a PWI or HBCU, your experience is whatever you make it.
And I hope you make your decision when November comes.
And then for those of us who have graduated from those institutions, our experiences are whatever we make them post-graduation. And then what is it that we're doing to further the work that our institutions are doing, and especially being minorities, whether in a PWI or minorities in a HBCU, like how are we having a hand in that progression? And as my boy mentioned, Black Restaurant Week, I'm gonna put the links down below in the comment section. Make sure that you check out what he's doing with Black Restaurant Week. It's some pretty awesome stuff that they do. They go from city to city and basically highlight Black restaurants or Black-owned restaurants, chefs, caterers in those areas. So it's really, really great that they've created this platform so that we have exposure to the Black establishments that are in our own community. So as always, thank you guys for tuning in to Can We Talk About It? Click that subscribe button. Make sure that you comment below. Make sure that you tune in next week to see what we're talking about. All right, we out. Y'all do a U of H sign. We don't have one at PV. So.
Y'all don't have a sign?
We do not have a sign.
Oh shit, that's a problem. So PV ain't got no sign. Let's get done with it on camera. Sorry.
Which was most lit though? That's what I'm saying.
U of H.